Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm going to talk about the Six of Cups today. Now, I should probably say from the outset, right, I love this Crowley card. I love the Thoth presentation of this card. And I think I've chosen a good Kate Bush song. I'm quite happy with that. And I think it says something interesting about this energy. But I really struggle with the Rider-Waite presentation of this card. I actually really don't like it. And I suppose the baggage that comes with it is I think it presents a very idealized childhood, which feels very different to my own. I wouldn't say I had a particularly happy childhood, unfortunately. Not as bad as some people's, but nothing close to that idealized greeting card view of childhood either. And I would say that most people I know didn't have that sort of childhood either. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but let's just firstly, quick summary of what the Thoth is presenting. I think this is a really beautiful card. Sixes, as I've said before, they're associated with harmony, generally a positive card. They are about, we're a little bit over halfway, aren't we, with the six? And they're a sense of looking behind at what we've been given. So that might be the gift, sort of money, or the gift of a loving family, and how that can then provide us with the building blocks for moving forward. So there's quite a lot about privilege in this card as well, how we acknowledge our privilege, how we treat those who are less fortunate. But it's generally, it's a lovely card. It is there's a lot of positives in it. Right. So you think, well, nothing, why would you find that triggering? I don't know. But then, so this is the Rider-Waite card. Okay. Interestingly, I think it shows maybe a brother and sister. I did a quick Google on Pamela Coleman Smith, who drew this card, and interestingly, she was an only child. So I think that also partly explains this idealized view of sibling relationships, if you see it as a brother and sister in this card. Some people talk about this dark shadow figure here. I suppose you could say with childhood, it is a time when we don't know any better, isn't it, really? And I suppose even if our family has and not particularly what's the word? So I feel like I'm tripping up over my words here. I'm trying to be too careful. But even if we grow up in a family that maybe has quite sort of distorted or delusional views or whatever, we don't really realize that as a child. We accept, don't we, whatever family you're born into, and then it's when you get older you sort of start to see your childhood and start to maybe question how people behave towards you. So there is definitely, it reminds me of those Victorian or actually it also reminds me of those flower fairy books, that kind of art and that view of childhood, innocence and prettiness. It's very kind of, I just don't like it. Sorry. I feel like it's quite a superficial view of childhood. I feel it's very gendered, this presentation. It's the boy handing her this cup or with these flowers in it. The little girl is wrapped up and kind of quite controlled and constricted. But that's, it's a product of its time when it was created. So we have to take that into account as well. But it is a card that is often associated with childhood. So for my Kate Bush song, I was thinking, so what can I say about Kate Bush's childhood? Of course, I don't know. So, I mean, I'm always in more comfortable ground when we're talking about Kate Bush's creativity or her songs. And when we stray into the biographical details, or when I stray into biographical details, I do feel like I am going into a bit of dangerous territory, because I can only ever comment on what is presented to me. And that is very one-sided. So what I understand from the little that has been said about Kate, and there's actually a video on YouTube, a very short video of Kate Bush with her family, I think when she was just shortly after her tour, so she was probably 19 or 20. And she's with her parents, and I think her brothers are there, but I think it's only her parents that speak. It's only about like a minute and a half long. I will link it because it's quite interesting to see her that age in her family setting. When you see the photos of her family house, it was a very nice, well-to-do house. The father was a doctor. They were a privileged family, not just in respect of wealth, but they had a lot of cultural influences as well. She was exposed to a lot of kind of books and music, and especially the Irish connection from her mother. So she had all those riches as well. So I think, Six of Cups is very appropriate for what she experienced. And I think if we are to take what is said on face value, and perhaps we should, and perhaps I should let go of my cynical attitude, that her older brothers seem to have been exceptionally supportive of her career. And that's what enabled her to flourish and to be completely her own eccentric self, and to have that confidence. I think what I'll do is, I have underlined, I've got this, right, so some of this is informed from this book here. It is Inside the Rainbow by John Carter Bush. And I'm just going to read a little bit of what he says about his sister, because I think this is unusual, quite exceptional, and I don't know whether it's because partly the age gap or something about the family, but I don't think there would be many brothers, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe such a family, but this is what he writes. So this is when she was about 13 or 14, I imagine, and she was writing lots and lots of songs, and they realised, I think, that she was unusually committed to writing these songs, and there was a talent there. As the songs multiplied and her inspiration grew, we all became aware of something unexpected emerging. The flower, left to grow in its own safe surroundings, was blooming in an exotic and unusual and unique way, like a rare orchid among daffodils. To be asked into the piano room to hear a new song and share the creative process became something to be looked forward to. So I think that is really unusual for isn't that unusual for a brother to say that about his little sister's songs, that he doesn't seem to have any rivalry or jealousy at all here. Gradually, we began to stabilise this new development. Our father brought a good reel-to-reel tape recorder, and we assiduously recorded all her songs, typed out the lyrics, catalogued them, and then posted the tapes to ourselves in registered envelopes, the simplest way of preserving copyright. So they weren't just applauding her. They were almost her secretaries, and they were really part of that kind of that early process, which I think is highly unusual. There is an interesting article, I'll show you the photo that I've chosen in a minute, that talks about the brother, in particular John Carter Bush, and what positive influence he had, almost like another father figure in a way, I would say, with the age gap and everything, and what positive influence he had on her creative development and how vital he was. So I hope this is going to show. Yeah. Okay. So this is from. So this shows Kate Bush with John Carter Bush, and I liked this photo. They're both dressed up. They're both kind of quite theatrical in this, aren't they? I mean, John Carter Bush was a poet and a photographer as well. So he was very creative himself. Now, the song is from Sensual World, and it is The Fog, which is really about growing up and having to so the song is about a child learning to swim, and that whole idea of when your parents let go and you have to swim towards them and you have to trust that you're not going to drown, and how difficult it is that moment when they they're encouraging you, or I suppose when you're learning to cycle and they let go of the back of the bike or whatever, and suddenly you're on your own. And that really, as a metaphor for like any relationship, how we have to let go and come into our independence. So I think that is quite an interesting viewpoint on the shadow side, or the difficulties of this card. And I would say that maybe, I don't know whether you agree with this, but maybe there is not an ideal childhood. Maybe there isn't, there's good and bad in every kind of childhood experience in a way. And let's ignore like really horrible abusive childhood for a moment, but let's just, talk about averagely good or bad childhood. And I would say that if your childhood is more on if your family home is more on the kind of incredibly supportive, and your family home is a sheltered environment that is a lot better than what's on the outside world, that your challenge, you have a different challenge. You still have a challenge, and you have that challenge of letting go and going into your independence, because eventually you will have to let go, or, as is quite likely, your parents will die before you do, that you will at some point have to carry on your life without them and without their influence. But, just growing up is about a system of letting go and realizing that not everyone in the world is as kind or has your best interests at heart. That maybe if you have grown up in this atmosphere, that you then have to learn how nasty people can be, and especially people that haven't had that same experience, because it does provoke kind of like envy. I feel envious when I see like an idealized family. It reminds me of what I might have missed out on by not having that. would say that is probably the shadow side. I mean, people sometimes say the shadow side of this card is like nostalgia, or unrealistic view of not seeing the negative sides of things, or harking back to the past. So we need to, in a way, to grow into fully ourselves. We need to reject something of our past and our upbringing, don't we? And I actually think maybe if your family upbringing was less than ideal, that you do have that incentive to find your own way, to work out what you want and what you need going forward. Not that that's easy, and that can still be really painful. So I think that's all I want to say about this. I mean, it's I love The Fog. It's got Nigel Kennedy's violin, beautiful violin playing in it. When I first listened to the song, I was 15, 16. So I suppose I really related it because that was my time in the life as well, that I was having to grow up and become independent too. And that, that fear of, well, can I swim on my own? Can I cope with, because it's what's familiar, isn't it? It's what you know. Anyway, I think that's all I want to say. But as always, if you've got any kind of views on this, your impressions and stuff, I'd be really interested to hear. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.